Hi, everyone. This is Mike Gaffney from SpecRite. It is the top of the hour. We're about to get started with the webinar. We're just waiting for a handful of people to finish logging in. We'll just hold tight for about 30 more seconds.
All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. We're all adapting to new ways of living and working as a result of the COVID-19 outbreak, and we hope you, your families, and your colleagues are staying safe. Many organizations around the world are preparing their businesses to weather the storm, and I'm sure many of you have been asked to find ways to reduce costs. The intent of this webinar is to help you quickly find ways to reduce costs using specification data management without sacrificing quality. We've been speaking with customers about how they're using SpecRite to navigate this new reality, and a couple of things are clear. They're telling us that specification data management is helping them quickly evaluate their options, and that specification data management is a need to have, not a nice to have. We're going to share some learnings with you today, along with best practices, and all participants will be on mute, but please use the Q&A chat to ask questions. We'd love to hear from you. What are your biggest challenges? What are some of those pain points you're having? And what new cost savings goals have been put in front of you? My name is Matt Lenzen, and I'm the Vice President of Sales at SpecRite, and I've been in the packaging industry for over 20 years. Much of my focus and my team's focus over the years has been on new product development, innovation, and productivity or cost savings programs. I'm joined by Mike Gaffney today. Mike is our Chief Operating Officer, and he's held various senior leadership roles in the software industry. A couple of things come to mind when I think about working with Mike. Number one is his passion for working with customers to find solutions to complex challenges. And number two is his continuous focus on creating great customer experiences. Welcome to the webinar, Mike. Here's what we're going to cover today. We'll cover the state of procurement and what the economic ripples from the coronavirus pandemic mean for businesses today. We'll then talk about how to take action using SpecRite to quickly evaluate your products and packaging and find ways to reduce costs without compromising quality. Companies across all industries are beginning to understand the impact of controlling their supply chain data. We're working with CPG companies like P&G, food companies like Flowers Foods, and beauty companies like Rodan and Fields to help them manage their specification. While these industries are certainly different, the underlying challenges are the same. Companies need access to data, and they need to take action faster than ever. We're seeing that for many companies, the coronavirus is creating economic ripples that not only impact their supply chain, but also have a material impact on their bottom line. And a few headlines stick out from recent weeks. Planning should replace forecasting as uncertainty clouds outlook. Unilever's prioritizing certain SKUs, and Deloitte suggesting that certain companies right-size their businesses to maintain continuity. I can tell you from my experience that when the supply chain, especially for packaging, became more global over 10 years ago, those of us who manufactured domestically worked with our customers to build contingency plans for disruptions like the coronavirus in case overseas supply was impacted. And it's really interesting to look back at those times, as some people embraced those planning sessions and some did not. But I think now you'd be hard-pressed to find someone who won't have plans in place moving forward. And it's clear to me after reading these articles that procurement leaders and supply chain leaders are more important now than ever. And unfortunately, many don't have the data or tools they need to operate in these challenging environments. So why is it so hard to find ways to quickly reduce costs? The reality is that supply chain data, mostly specifications, the DNA of supply chains, aren't managed well. Companies lack digital threads that map all their spec data along the supply chain, and we typically see a handful of things. It's a lack of common language. There's duplication of data or incomplete data because it's housed at suppliers. People spend way too much time chasing data, And if they do have data at their fingertips, they can't share it easily with suppliers and external partners. And if you add a supply chain disruption like COVID-19, it's difficult for organizations to use this data to make an informed decision because it's all over the place. The reality is most organizations don't have the right systems in place to react, and it's not in one place. It lives in siloed systems like ERPs or spreadsheets, and companies simply haven't taken the time to digitize the tribal knowledge. This makes it all the more difficult to quickly respond and put contingency plans together when crisis hits. So let's talk about how capturing data at the DNA level by specification data management can deliver significant cost savings to your organization. We think about three key areas when discussing how to deliver cost savings, and those are SKU rationalization, setting up purchasing guardrails, and smart spec sharing. We know many of the companies we're working with are putting plans in place to produce less SKUs in an effort to minimize changeovers and downtime and keep their retail partners happy. This SKU rationalization can be executed in minutes in SpecRite, and in times like this, we all know that every minute matters. One of our partners told us that new production plans they have in place needed to be reduced from 7 weeks to 2 weeks for a coronavirus project. So getting timely information is critical. With SpecRite, information is a click away. And many of you know we recently completed an economic impact study with Forrester, and it showed us something that we at SpecRite have known from the start, that we're onto something. An executive we partner with told us that his company is consistently able to deliver savings on over 250 packaging items because they leverage various guardrails and SpecRite's architecture and logic. And another area that's been highlighted during the coronavirus is moving production around and having new partners produce products for you. Think about Ford and GE Healthcare and how they're partnering for ventilator production. What do you think was at the root of those discussions? It was a spec. And there are multiple ways to share spec data internally and externally in SpecRite. And getting specs right from the start helps you reduce costs in so many ways, but a couple stick out for me. You'll eliminate running the wrong product because you had the wrong spec in hand, and you'll eliminate shipping bad raw materials for trials, startup, and even production. Unfortunately, I know firsthand that errors like this can, in many cases, cause economic ripples through your company that is 6 figures plus. And not only does it damage brands, but it damages companies for years. So I'm going to turn it over to Mike now to walk you through a demo that will demonstrate how you can accomplish what we've been discussing, leveraging SpecRite's specification data management platform. Mike, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you, Matt. So just going to share my screen over here, and everybody should now be taking a look at the SpecRite platform. So today's demo is really going to be focused on what Matt just covered. So SKU rationalization, purchasing and cost-saving guardrails that are built into the underlying logic of the system, as well as smart and easy specification sharing, both internally and externally to your organization. Before we jump into that, let me just situate what you're looking at. So you're brought into the homepage upon logging into SpecRite. And depending on what department you work in, quality, procurement, packaging, operations, is going to typically dictate what tabs you see up at the top here. So right now, for the purpose of today's demo, we have tabs like finished goods, packaging, ingredients, and formulas. But there's also tons of other applications across procurement and sustainability and quality that are also going to be available to your personal view. So let's jump into the demo. And let's say that I've got a request to create a new product from our product team, and let's say on the packaging side of the equation. So I'm going to go over to the packaging tab. I see all of my packaging specifications listed here that I can easily search and sort on. Let's say I want to create one from scratch, which is typically the process. And typically this information resides in spreadsheets and different silos. But upon creating a new product, I'm going to click New here. I see a bunch of out-of-the-box templates that we have that you can leverage to create that new product. And this one's in packaging. We have other ones across different specifications like formulas and ingredients, for example. I'm going to create a new flexible packaging. By choosing this template, it's going to dictate what fields I need to complete in the system. I'm not going to complete all of this information for the sake of time. I'm going to select some of these. Let's say I need to create a new flexible bag, and the material type is LDPE. I'm going to go ahead and hit save here. And you see, prior to saving, I'm given a message saying, hey, records with similar attributes and dimensions already exist in your portfolio. Do you really want to go ahead and create a duplicate? And this is often what we hear from customers when we start our engagement with them, is that they say that they have 50,000 specifications or 10,000 specifications. We know that the true number is probably half of that, because a lot of times on a daily or weekly basis, they're unnecessarily duplicating SKUs and specifications because they're not able to access their existing items in their portfolio. So I have in here items within a 1/4 inch of tolerance of the length and width that I was going ahead and create. So I can go easily in here and say, hey, I don't want to create a new product for this package. I'm going to go ahead and use this one that's already pre-existing in the system. Another way that we help to rationalize SKUs, it's sort of the same functionality, but from a different angle. So it's called our like item finder. And I'm on the like item finder tab now, and the functionality of the tab is exactly what it says. So I can go in here and say, hey, do I have other finished goods or ingredients or packaging? We'll stay with the packaging theme for now that already exists. And I want to go in here and search all of my corrugated packaging products. I want to sort for specific dimensions of that packaging, all within a tolerance of 1 inch. And you see that it quickly filters out the hundreds or thousands of specifications that I might have already existing to meet this request and this filter request. So I see that I have a handful, including their cost per unit, length, width, and depth that I've searched for, as well as the supplier where I'm sourcing this from. So let's drill into the actual packaging spec itself. You see that I'm brought over to the packaging tab. I'm now on the specification page for this packaging spec, and everything related to this spec is going to be one click away. I can easily see what supplier I am sourcing that from, and certainly this has been a useful one for today. What's my alternative or secondary supplier in case this supplier is realizing increased demand, as many packaging companies are with their food and beverage clients today during the current COVID-19 outbreak. Any relevant files that are associated with it. What finished goods is this packaging spec used in? So being able to quickly see as Matt mentioned, the digital thread of this specification across my entire product portfolio. So a lack of this product is going to impact multiple finished goods. But some of the built-in intelligence that has some indirect cost savings as well. Let's say I want to go, the dimensions of this packaging are going to change, and because of increased demand or decreased demand in my current portfolio, I'm looking to switch production to additional facilities, but the dimensions of this packaging are going to change. You see that I'm given a warning sign here, which is say, hey, changing the dimensions of this package will prevent it from being run on machine lines number 2, 5, and 10. This is a very real world scenario we had with one of our existing customers who produce hand sanitizing wipes and sanitizer. Obviously, their products are in extremely high demand today. And as a result, they were trying to increase production of that product line by shipping some of the production to their facilities in the UK. They quickly realized that the machines in those facilities were unable to support the amount of production that they were previously planning on. So it caught a challenge before they actually started down that path. So it's saving sort of immense cost overruns potentially. While I'm still on this spec page, let's jump over. I see that there's a couple of related purchase order items to this corrugated shipper spec. I'm going to click on the individual purchase order item. You see that I'm brought over at the top of the page to the purchase order tab. And you'll notice that I have different line items within my within my purchase order here. And if I were to change any of the quantities of this, let's say I'm changing this from 3,000 to 10,000, I'm going to go ahead and click that change. You'll see that it's flagging this. The average price based at this quantity really should be at $1.22 per unit, where I'm buying this for $1.25. Now that might be not a big enough difference. There might be a challenge in the supply chain where that additional cost is not going to be material for me at this time. But it's showing the intelligence of the system to flag that information and give you that should cost model so that you can make informed decisions before you make them rather than after that. So I'm going to go up to the finished goods. So I can go over to the finished good tab, or I could easily just search for the product directly here. So let's say I'm going to go to my organic French roast coffee finished good. I'm brought over to the finished good tab. And similar to the corrugated shipper spec, on this finished good page, everything related to this finished good is going to be one click away. So I have artwork, images, I have pallet design, I have dimension and shipping information, packaging spec information, formulas and ingredients, product lot codes for traceability, any quality issues. So everything is going to be one click away from this finished good. Now, we also understand that oftentimes you're going to have to share this information, especially when you're juggling dynamically changes in your supply chain, to share information both not only internally but also externally. And these people may not have access to your SpecRite platform. So you can easily do a PDF output of this finished good, or any specification for that matter, and it's going to produce a nicely formatted output of all of that items related to this finished good, including any attached artwork or files, and you dictate which fields are pulled over from your finished good or specification page into this PDF output. But there's also another way. Since 95% of our customers also give access to their SpecRite platform to their external suppliers to very seamlessly share information with their clients. So on the Exchange tab, I'm going ahead and create a new data exchange with my supplier community. So that could be with my incumbent suppliers. I could go to bid with my secondary and alternative suppliers. I can do things like push and pull audits to say, hey, these are the dimensions I have for the latest specification for your corrugated shipper, for your raw material, for your resin, whatever that might be, and have your partner verify that that is the latest and greatest. So regardless of the communication with your supplier, the vehicle is going to be the same. So let's say we're going to do a new bid with my supplier community. I would go ahead and select bid. I'd say it's going to be active for 30 days. Just set up some of the basics. You can then have some nicely pre-formatted email templates and attachments that would go out in the communication to your suppliers. Step 2, you upload your specifications that you want them to bid on. And that could be a pre-formatted family of suppliers, perhaps all of your flexible packaging suppliers, for example. Or I could go in here and just choose the specifications individually that I want to get bids on. I'm going to collect a handful here. The next step in that process is then selecting the partners that I want to share those specifications with. And again, I can select as many or few as I want here. And then I am going to go next, and I am ready, all in a handful of clicks. What most of our customers tell us, trying to track down this information in all the different silos internally with their shared drives, PDF and hard documents, Excel documents, this exercise can take days, weeks, and sometimes months to perform. So the ability to quickly pull all of your specifications and communicate to a select group or all of your suppliers in the click of a few buttons is a massive time savings and ultimately cost savings measure that our customers are using, certainly in the current environment. And that has, we've seen the usage of our platform surge during this current work from home lockdown, because SpecRite proves to be one of the few places that they can get a single 360-degree view of their entire supply chain, including their external partners. So that was the very quick tour through the SpecRite platform through the lens of SKU rationalization and purchasing guardrails and smart spec sharing. There's a whole lot more under the hood we'd be happy to show you with, so please reach out if you'd like a more personalized or customized one-on-one demo. But we do have several questions that have come across the chat during the presentation. So let me let's pick off a couple of these. How can you communicate changes with your suppliers? So that was related to the last couple of clicks I was doing. You could do that through the PDF output. You could do it through our exchange functionality. But it's also important to understand if one or multiple of my suppliers are tied. So let's say I have 5 suppliers that are supplying that corrugated shipper, staying with that same example. If any changes to that specification happen within the SpecRite platform, that will immediately notify those partners that have that I have given access to the SpecRite platform. So changes and version control become very easy in the SpecRite platform. They're notified not only in the platform, but through traditional channels like email. Mike, we have our own purchasing tables. Pricing tables, how would that work within SpecRite? Yeah, so the example I gave you, flagging the should cost model and the average price depending on volumes under the purchase order table, all of that would be configured and customized, obviously, to your product portfolio, your suppliers, and so leveraging your pricing and product table. So that would be related specifically to you and your organization.
Thanks, Mike. Looks like we have time for a couple more questions. You mentioned material substitutions in the webinar description, but I don't think I heard about them on today's call. Did I miss that part? No, you didn't. Great catch. We decided not to cover material substitutions today. While it's really easy to do this using features like the like item finder and other methods, these material substitutions typically take longer to come to fruition as they require, various packaging testing like ISTA or shelf life and pantry testing. And we really wanted to focus on the types of activities that can result in the fastest value. So you did not miss anything there. The last one, we have a lot of pressures to drive savings now. How quickly are people able to get up and running on SpecRite knowing we have a big savings number to hit internally? So great question. Onboarding and implementation is really based on the amount of data and the complexity of that data going into SpecRite. So we typically see anywhere from 3 to 5 months. But one of the benefits is that users have immediate access to SpecRite during that onboarding process. So this enables them to quickly start prioritizing specs and realizing value sooner versus later. So thank you for all those questions. There are other questions that have been posted. We assure you that we'll get back to you within 48 hours. So thank you for those. And thank you for your time and attention today. Stay safe and healthy. And we look forward to speaking to all of you soon. Have a great day.